The silence of deep space shattered like brittle glass when the reconnaissance drone first detected the anomaly. Zreen, lead scout of the Quantum Reach survey team, froze as the holographic display flickered with an impossible reading. No known species should have survived in this sector, a desolate stretch of space so remote that even light seemed to hesitate before traversing its emptiness. The drone's sensors painted a bizarre picture. Nestled within an asteroid field that should have been nothing more than a graveyard of lifeless rock, something moved. Something lived. Zreen's translucent membranes, normally a calm blue of calculated observation, rippled with an unfamiliar sensation. Was it fear? Curiosity? The emotion defied the precise categorization demanded by quantum reach protocols. Enhance Quadrant 7 Delta, Zreen commanded, mandible translator clicking with measured precision. The image resolved, and for a moment, the scout wondered if the long-range scanning systems had finally succumbed to cosmic radiation interference. A human-made structure, if one could call it a structure, emerged from the asteroid's jagged surface. It was less a building and more a violent mutation of technology and raw survival. Salvaged panels from what appeared to be 3 different spacecraft types were welded together with a chaotic brilliance that defied all known engineering principles. Radiation shielding torn from one vessel formed makeshift walls. Thruster components from another craft had been repurposed into what seemed simultaneously like a defensive barrier and a life support system. This was not construction. This was survival weaponized. A figure moved within the structure, human, unmistakably so. But something was different. The being's movements suggested an adaptation that went beyond mere survival. Each motion was economical, predatory, a living testament to an species that refused to accept the impossible. Zreen's preliminary report would change everything. Humanity was not just surviving in this dead sector. They were thriving. And that, the scout realized with a chill that transcended biological response, made them infinitely more dangerous than any threat Quantum Reach had ever encountered. The transmission arrived 17 standard cycles after the initial reconnaissance, a compressed data burst that made even the most hardened Quantum Reach analysts recoil. Deep within the survey vessel's most secure communication chamber, Decrypt Specialist Vorn carefully unpacked the sensor logs from Zreen's drone. What emerged was far more than a simple scouting report. It was a complete deconstruction of everything they understood about survival. The human settlement, if such a crude term could even apply, existed in what should have been impossible conditions. An asteroid field riddled with radiation, gravitational instabilities, and minimal resources had become not just a habitat, but a fortress. Vorn's neural interface began reconstructing the drone's visual records. Each frame told a story of incremental adaptation that bordered on the miraculous. A section of hull breach had been sealed with what appeared to be a mixture of ceramic fragments, melted circuit boards, and some organic compound that looked disturbingly like a biological sealant. Where any other species would have considered such damage a death sentence, these humans had transformed a critical failure into an opportunity for innovation. Communication intercepts revealed something even more unsettling. The humans were not just surviving, they were strategizing. Resource allocation matrix suggests complete environmental optimization, Vorn muttered, mandibles clicking with a mixture of professional detachment and growing unease. Threat response protocols indicate dynamic adaptation beyond predictive modeling. Most intriguing were the weapon systems. They were nothing like the precision-engineered armaments of advanced civilizations. Instead, the humans had created something far more terrifying, weapons of pure improvisation. A mining laser, clearly salvaged from an industrial drill, had been reconfigured into a defensive system that could simultaneously cut through asteroid rock and repel potential threats. Cooling systems from abandoned communication arrays now functioned as thermal camouflage. Even waste recycling had been transformed into a complex early warning network. Each adaptation screamed of a fundamental truth that made Quantum Reach's hierarchical command structure deeply uncomfortable: these humans did not just survive. They conquered by reimagining the very definition of survival. Vorn remembered the ancient training axiom, predictability ensures survival. But these humans had written an entirely new equation. For them, survival was not about prediction. It was about perpetual, relentless transformation. The report's final notation chilled Vorn to the core. A single line that seemed to pulse with an almost living intensity: humans do not adapt to environment. Environment adapts to humans. Outside the communication chamber, the vast emptiness of space continued its silent vigil. But something had changed. The universe had just discovered a species that didn't play by any known rules. And Quantum Reach was about to learn exactly how dangerous that could be. The first direct encounter was never supposed to happen. Quantum Reach had meticulously planned a remote observation protocol, a careful dance of sensors and long-range scanners that would keep a clinical distance from the human settlement. But protocols, like everything else in this sector, meant nothing to humanity. Krell, the junior communication specialist assigned to the monitoring station, barely had time to register the anomaly before alarms erupted across the vessel's communication array. Something was cutting through their most advanced shielding, not with brute force, but with a surgical precision that defied all known technological principles. The breach began as a microscopic disruption, a hairline fracture in the vessel's quantum communication grid. Within moments, it spread like a living network, transforming from a simple technical intrusion into a complete system infiltration. Krell watched in horror as their most secure systems began to reconfigure themselves. Defensive protocols meant to protect against external threats were being rewritten, repurposed, transformed. It wasn't an attack. It was something far more terrifying, a complete reimagining of technological possibility. Scattered communication fragments began to paint a bizarre picture. The humans had not just intercepted their communication signals. They had begun to understand them, decode them, and then, most impossibly, start to communicate back. "We see you," came the first transmission. Not in any known language, but in a complex matrix of repurposed communication protocols that seemed to bridge the gap between technological systems and something far more intuitive. The method of communication was itself a weapon. Each signal was a multi-layered puzzle, a demonstration of technological prowess that suggested the humans were viewing the very concept of communication as a form of strategic engagement. Quantum Reach's most advanced linguistic algorithms struggled to process the incoming data. It wasn't just a message. It was a complete deconstruction of communication itself. Fragments of intercepted transmissions revealed glimpses of their technological adaptation. A communication relay originally designed for deep space exploration had been transformed into a multi-frequency jamming device. Cooling systems from an abandoned mining platform now functioned as sophisticated early warning networks. Most chilling was the apparent source of their technological innovation. These weren't the products of a centralized research facility or a unified technological infrastructure. Each adaptation seemed to emerge from individual initiative, a collective improvisation that defied traditional understanding of technological development. "Threat assessment impossible," Krell muttered, the translation matrix in their communication implant struggling to process the incoming data. Technological adaptation exceeds all predictive models. The humans had turned communication itself into a form of psychological warfare. Each transmission was a probe, a test, a demonstration of capabilities that suggested they were perpetually one step ahead of any potential threat. As the final fragments of the transmission dissolved into the quantum communication grid, one thing became terrifyingly clear: Quantum Reach was no longer observing. They were being studied. And humanity was the one holding the microscope. The moment of convergence arrived with the subtlety of a supernova. Quantum Reach had marshaled its entire fleet, a show of technological might that had crushed civilizations across 3 galactic sectors. 17 massive vessels, each a testament to centuries of advanced engineering, converged on the small human settlement nestled within the radiation-soaked asteroid field. What they found defied every tactical projection. The human settlement was gone. But not destroyed. Transformed. The entire asteroid field had become a single, living system. Fragments of spacecraft, geological formations, and what appeared to be improvised technological constructs merged into a single, breathing organism of survival. It was as if the humans had looked at the concept of a spaceship and decided to reimagine it entirely. Transmission officers Rel realized the fatal mistake moments before the first wave of destruction hit. The humans weren't preparing to defend. They were preparing to counterattack. The first strike came from impossible angles. Asteroid fragments, some no larger than a standard communication drone, erupted with weapon systems that seemed to materialize from nothing. Quantum Reach's most advanced shield technologies dissolved like morning mist, targeted by precision strikes that understood their defensive systems better than their own designers. It wasn't just technological warfare. It was a complete deconstruction of the concept of conflict. Weapon systems designed for planetary bombardment found themselves repurposed into communication relays. Defensive shields became offensive tools. The very fabric of technological understanding was being rewritten in real time. Intercepted communication fragments revealed the true horror of the human strategy. They weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to survive, and in doing so, they were redefining the very concept of survival. Target neutralization impossible, came the increasingly desperate reports from fleet commanders. Adaptive response exceeds all known parameters. One by one, quantum reach vessels found themselves transformed from instruments of war to components of an ever-shifting battlefield. Hull breaches were sealed with impossible speed. Communication systems were hijacked and repurposed. Even the most advanced artificial intelligence systems found themselves outmaneuvered by a logic that defied computational modeling. The humans had turned the entire conflict into a living ecosystem of technological adaptation. A final transmission cut through the chaos, a message that would be analyzed and reanalyzed for generations to come. We are not fighting against you. We are fighting for the right to exist. And everything is a potential tool for survival. As the last quantum reach vessel began to dissolve, not destroyed, but fundamentally transformed, the true nature of the conflict became clear. This was never a battle between civilizations. This was a demonstration of what happens when a species refuses to accept the limitations imposed by others. This was humanity's true weapon. The aftermath was not silence. It was revelation. In the wake of the conflict, what remained of Quantum Reach's research division found themselves confronting a truth far more complex than any battlefield analysis. The human survival mechanism was not just a technological marvel, it was a profound philosophical statement about existence itself. Archival specialist Torn began the meticulous process of reconstructing the intercepted communications, data fragments, and salvaged records. What emerged was not a story of military conquest, but of survival born from the most fundamental human characteristic, adaptability. The origin files told a story that shattered every preconceived notion about humanity. Centuries ago, this group of humans had been survivors of a catastrophic colony ship failure. Stranded in one of the most hostile regions of space, they faced extinction at every turn. No rescue was coming. No advanced technology would save them. They had only themselves, and an unbreakable will to survive. Each technological adaptation was a chapter in their survival manual. The repurposed mining laser? Originally a desperate attempt to extract vital minerals from seemingly worthless asteroid fragments. The intricate communication network? A system developed to track dwindling resources and coordinate survival efforts across multiple isolated groups. What Quantum Reach had interpreted as aggressive technological warfare was, in reality, the accumulated wisdom of generations who had learned that survival meant constant reinvention. The most shocking revelation came from a fragmented personal log, recovered from what appeared to be a makeshift central database. We are not just surviving. We are proving that limitations are nothing more than challenges waiting to be reimagined. Every obstacle is an opportunity. Every constraint is a resource. Torn realized that the human survival strategy defied traditional understanding of technological development. It wasn't about creating the most advanced system. It was about creating the most adaptable one. Their technology was alive, not in the sense of artificial intelligence, but in the way an organism adapts to its environment. Each system was interconnected, flexible, capable of radical transformation at a moment's notice. What appeared chaotic was, in fact, an incredibly sophisticated survival mechanism. The personal logs revealed something even more profound. This was not a unified military strategy. These were individual stories of survival, of people who had chosen collective adaptation over individual preservation. Each technological marvel was born from someone's personal struggle, someone's desperate attempt to keep their community alive. One recovered transmission captured the essence of their philosophy. We don't build to conquer. We build to survive. And in survival, we find our greatest strength. Quantum Reach's most advanced analysts found themselves confronting a fundamental question: what happens when a species views every challenge not as a threat, but as an opportunity for growth? The humans had answered that question. Not with words, but with their very existence. The universe holds its breath in moments of transformation. What remained of Quantum Reach, a fractured coalition of research vessels and damaged communication arrays, now faced a choice that would redefine intergalactic relations. The humans were no longer a simple species to be categorized or contained. They were a force of nature. Deep within the most secure communication hub, the highest-ranking analysts gathered. Gone was the previous air of superiority. In its place, a profound sense of recalibration. Torn, the archival specialist who had meticulously reconstructed the human survival narrative, presented the final report. It was less a military briefing and more a profound philosophical treatise. We have been asking the wrong questions, Torn began, neural interfaces projecting holographic reconstructions of human adaptations. We sought to understand how they survived. But the true question is why they survived. The holographic display flickered with images of seemingly impossible technological solutions. A life support system cobbled together from radiation-damaged communication arrays. A defensive network that transformed asteroid fragments into a living, breathing protective ecosystem. Communication systems that rewrote themselves with each new challenge. Each image told a story of collective survival. The communication logs revealed something unprecedented. The humans were now actively attempting communication, not as a threat, but as a genuine attempt at understanding. Their messages were complex, multi-layered invitations to dialogue that challenged every known protocol of first contact. We are more than what we appear, one transmission read. We are potential waiting to be understood. Quantum Reach's leadership found themselves confronting a fundamental paradigm shift. These were not conquerors. They were survivors. More importantly, they were inviters, challenging other species to reimagine the very concept of coexistence. The final pieces of intercepted communication suggested something even more radical. The humans were not just interested in survival. They were offering a new model of intergalactic interaction, one based on adaptive cooperation rather than hierarchical domination. A recovered fragment of a communication matrix crystallized their philosophy. Survival is not about defeating others. It's about finding ways to exist together that elevate everyone's potential. As the analysts processed this information, a collective realization emerged. The conflict was never about destruction. It was about demonstration, a vivid, powerful illustration of what happens when a species refuses to be defined by its limitations. Quantum Reach stood at a crossroads. They could continue to view the humans as a threat. Or they could recognize them as the most profound evolutionary statement the galaxy had ever witnessed. The universe watched. And waited. Time is the ultimate revealer of truth. Generations passed. The conflict between Quantum Reach and the human survivors became more than a historical footnote, it became a pivotal moment in galactic evolution. The transformed asteroid settlement, once a desperate outpost of survival, now stood as a beacon of collaborative innovation. What began as a fragmented group of survivors had become something far more profound, a living testament to the power of adaptation, resilience, and collective potential. Quantum Reach's descendant organizations had undergone their own transformation. The rigid hierarchical structures that once defined their approach to exploration had been systematically dismantled, replaced by a more fluid, adaptive model inspired by humanity's survival strategies. The final diplomatic archives revealed the true depth of the transformation. It wasn't a story of conquest or defeat. It was a narrative of mutual understanding, a delicate dance of species learning to see beyond their inherent limitations. We did not survive by being the strongest, an archived human communication read. We survived by being the most willing to change. Research vessels that once carried weapons now explored the galaxy with a fundamentally different mission. Each encountered civilization was viewed not as a potential threat, but as a potential partner in collective growth. The humans had rewritten the very concept of intergalactic relations. The original survivors, those who had been stranded in the unforgiving asteroid field, had become something of legendary figures. Not as warriors or conquerors, but as philosophers of survival. Their story was taught across multiple species as a fundamental lesson in adaptability. Their greatest legacy was not technological. It was philosophical. They had proven that survival is not about maintaining what exists, but about continuously reimagining what could exist. Every limitation was an invitation to grow. Every challenge was an opportunity to transform. The final transmission from the original settlement captured this philosophy perfectly. We are not defined by our circumstances. We are defined by our response to those circumstances. Survival is not about enduring. It is about evolving. As the galaxy continued its endless dance of creation and destruction, one truth remained constant. The human survivors had shown that the most powerful weapon is not technology. It is the human spirit, that unbreakable ability to look at the impossible and see only potential. Their message resonated across generations, across species. Adapt. Transform. Survive. But more importantly, grow.